D-Money, great to see you, my friend. Welcome back to the show. KG's here. She's excited to see you. So anytime that you're on our screens here, life is good, man. How's everything for you?
Life is great, man. I love the background with the horses. I feel like I'm at my grandmother's house or something. She always had these horses and animals lying everywhere. I feel very nostalgic, man. But
Okay.
life's good.
Weird,
I mean,
but I
weather's
get
great out here.
I've never been compared to a grandmother. Coach Dabo Sweeney said he was distracted by the horses like junk, like sitting on my head. I like horses,
That was one of my top 5 funniest moments, I think, on this podcast ever. And Mag, yes, but Mag, normally you change your background when we're doing Miami stuff to like the beach.
I
So I guess
do,
today
and I
you didn't.
will thank you for bringing that up. I'll peel back the curtain. I had a dear friend come by, a little bit rushed for time, and I had to skedaddle, so I didn't have time to change it. Thank you, KG.
D-Money, it was Mac's one friend. He came by to chat.
My only friend. Well, you guys are my friends, right? Y'all are my friends.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Look, my son had a travel tournament and he was like concerned about how far it was. And like he started seeing horses pop up. He's like, where are we? Like, we live in Miami Beach. How far is this tournament? There's horses everywhere. We're in horse country. But anyways, I digress. Life's good. Canes are playing well. Offense is starting to look a little more like we hoped. Certainly the creativity has been different the last couple of weeks, even against defenses that you think on paper you can kind of run your conventional stuff and have success. I think they've gotten away from some of that and some of the attitude of, hey, we can beat you with the basics because we just have bigger, stronger, more physical players. And you're starting to see more, I'm going to say playing it like an underdog, but playing it more with a little sense of desperation and trying to win with the creativity and the way the offense is clicking.
D-Money, you read my mind. Okay, this is literally the first question I wanted to ask you. So we know Miami, at this point, they need style points, and they're getting that, beating Syracuse like they did and NC State. Those are really good wins. You need to blow them out, right? But when I look back at the SMU loss, the Louisville loss, that's really what comes to mind. It felt like, mainly, I would say even more so maybe in SMU, you thought, okay, we're bigger. We're going to be able to just run between the tackles, win this game with our bigger athletes. And it didn't work. So did it take the SMU game to learn that lesson, do you think, for Miami?
It's a great question. And Canes fans, that haunts them because, this is college football. You can't just learn the loss and then, hey, we're the Chiefs. We'll figure it out in the playoffs. You can't count on that. So that was a big topic of discussion. It's hard to say. I mean, you also, Mark Fletcher was such a short yardage crutch, right? Marty Brown, very good short yardage runner as well, but Mark Fletcher was kind of the symbol of all that. And him being out, you now switch to a much smaller lead tailback in Gerard Pringle. So it's just the personnel is a little different. But I think, yes, certainly that game. And, it's not just that you don't get the first down on some of these short yardage plays. You lose the opportunity for a lot of explosive plays when teams have to prepare for your short yardage game. And this has been an offense that has not been explosive at all. So you've now seen that aspect of the team, at least the last 2 weeks, improve. And if you're going to make a playoff push, this team needs to be more explosive. I think they're in the hundreds in most explosive play, 10 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus play categories. And for the University of Miami, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt. We'll get to some playoff talk here at the end because I do want to hear kind of your stance, Miami's stance on why they do deserve in. I mean, these polls, I think there was a very nice correction. Now there'll be another one that comes out after we've recorded this and who knows where the Hurricanes are there. But you bring up Pringle there. And this is a guy that I know everybody was very excited about coming into the season. Just felt like maybe he'd get buried a little bit in this depth chart because there's so many quality running backs there. But these last 2 games, I look at, Syracuse, he gets a handful of carries, looks really good. And then against NC State, he looks fantastic. I mean, this is a guy that, as a freshman, I think some people are excited about. Where are you on him? And what's the vibe for this guy moving forward?
Yeah, top 10 recruit in the country. So he was a big recruit, ran 10.5 in the 100 meters in high school. So the speed is there. Obviously under 200 pounds. So different than some of the other backs you've seen at the University of Miami recently. When you came down, I think during camp, Mac, I think the sentiment was that Jordan Lyle, who's a 200 plus pound back, another highly touted back, but someone also who has speed would bring that element, maybe in a bigger, more experienced body. At that time, Pringle's a little banged up too. Turns out Lyle gets hurt, opening drive of Notre Dame, never quite gets back. I don't know if it's physical or it's just something is not clicking in this running game for Jordan Lyle. And Pringle then gets his opportunity to fill that role as that explosive component. And he's taken it and run with it, man. So still early. Obviously, he's played 2 defenses as the primary ball carrier. Talking about NC State, Syracuse, some of the lower ranked defenses in the country. But I think his running style, when you watch him, he's not a dancer. He's really not somebody who gets nervous. I mean, when it comes to hitting that hole hard, he is decisive. He is upfield. He just happens to be very fast. So I think what he brings is someone who'll keep you somewhat on schedule, but then with the potential for explosive plays. So that
which is
really good.
nice. I mean, you want to have a decisive running back. I mean, a guy that, especially with that big offensive line and the offensive line that I know for years to come that will look very similar to that. You want a guy putting his foot in the ground and going north. I mean, you don't want a guy, being patient, looking around, like, let's go. Let's do it, especially as quickly, as, Miami can get to the second level. And we've seen them do that very well, throughout the season. So, KG, I love that. And I think that could be a nice little juice or a nice little boost for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, and Danny, you were telling us about Mark Fletcher. They're not quite sure when. I guess you could use the word if he'll be back, but perhaps if maybe later, maybe Pitt or who knows, Virginia Tech, but perhaps a playoff push. It's funny because I'm going to set up this question. I'm going to ask about the offensive line here, and Eric McLean's on this podcast, but it's been so interesting to watch this offensive line this season because they're so highly touted. You've got just monsters up there, and the pass blocking's been great. The run blocking has left some to be desired, it feels at times. Danny, give us your take on that? And specifically, you were telling us this off air just as we were chatting, but I really liked what you were saying about the pass blocking almost giving Carson Beck too much time sometimes.
Right. So let's start with the run blocking first, and Mac, jump in here because my offensive line knowledge is gap down backer, being a backup tight end in the wing T and JV. So, my blocking knowledge is limited. But from what I understand, in this blocking scheme, it's a little different the way it's coached, and they don't come off the ball as hard because sometimes when you come off the ball just super explosive, you risk getting off balance, getting on the ground. Whereas they like almost catch, they almost trying to show it in this TV here. They catch movement and then use just raw power to push as opposed to coming out really hard. So it's a different kind of way to coach, and it requires obviously big humans that can kind of catch and still get movement without popping out very explosive. So it's an unusual scheme, and the play calling, and I'm not trying to be Monday morning quarterback, but clearly there has not been a lot of deception in our short yardage game, and teams are playing on their front foot, flying upfield, and the results have been what they are. I don't think the teams that Miami's been trying to push around are particularly big or laden with NFL body types. I think it's been more just the way they're playing us and our inability to get them out the way. I think the interior probably not as potent as it's been in the past at the University of Miami under Mario Cristobal. So that could be part of it personnel-wise. But Inez Cooper was here last year. Matt McCoy, who is the left guard, he played in different spots last year at times. And this was an offensive line that was top 5 in the nation in yards per carry with Cam Ward. So clearly a huge regression. Now you're ranked in the 70s in yards per carry. Even before Cam, you were still averaging over 5 with Tyler Van Dyke. So it's not just the threat of his passing game that is opening up the run or that opened it up for him. There's other things at play because really Mario's entire career, you've been at or near that 5+ yard per carry mark, and you are significantly down this year, hovering around 3.94. So major changes in terms of the effectiveness of the running game. I think a lot has to do with personnel, play calling. There's a lot to it, but with Pringle, you have seen much more explosive element, and we'll see if that continues. You go 2 cold weather games where you really would love to have Mark Fletcher, and you don't. So we'll see how that goes.
No question. And then how about the too much time part and just looking at Beck and, maybe not quite the second chance guy that Ward was a year ago, and maybe, a guy that sticks to the script. What have you kind of seen from there that maybe you think having 5 seconds back there is beneficial, maybe not so much?
Yeah, I mean, with Ward, it was incredible. So if you look at Ward, he's always been great. He was the number 1 pick of the draft because of his individual talent, right? But in Washington State, he didn't have the greatest offenses, despite having some very good receivers. Kyle Williams was drafted day 2 by the Patriots. Deshaun Stripling, you've seen him for, I believe, Oklahoma State, but now he's at Ole Miss. He's a productive player. Josh Kelly was almost 1,000-yard receiver at Texas Tech. So you had guys that left Washington State and had success as receivers, and that offense still wasn't particularly good because he didn't have time to do the Cam Ward things, right? You put him in Miami with equal or even maybe lesser receivers in some respects, but tremendous amount of time. Now he's creating all those memories that we talked about all last year. Restrepo had such a great feel for space, and Ward did as well, former high school point guard. So Kelly, I mean, there's a certain vision that these players have of angles that's just different from doing it so many times. And him and Restrepo would find these angles, and you'd have these explosive plays, number one offense in the country.
Rollback just dropped their licensed game day collection. Polos, hoodies, Q-zips, custom designed for your school. On game days, we wear Rollback, period.
Put Carson Beck in the same situation. Carson Beck was a catcher and a third baseman growing up. So catcher and third baseman, if you're holding the ball, there's a problem.
Interesting.
that ball's getting out fast, right? It's the hot corner on third and catcher pop time. I mean, the whole thing is built around getting out fast. His release is incredible. Carson Beck's one of the best things about his game. So him having more time, everybody wants more time. He got beat up a bit at Georgia, so more time is not a bad thing. But there's a diminishing return with the Carson Beck, whereas a Ward, he's pounding that shot clock till there's 1 second in the clock,
right.
And that's where he's comfortable. So I think the pass blocking has remained basically what it was with Ward. Beck's actually getting sacked a lot less than Ward did, despite being less mobile, because I think he's not as liable to keep that play going. Yeah, so that's been fine. But the run blocking hasn't been quite as effective for some of the reasons that we went over.
It is fascinating. One guy that we're 11 minutes in here, and I can't believe we haven't brought him up yet, is baby Jesus, Malachi Tony. I mean, this is a guy that when we were at practice, we're kind of seeing him, and he catches my eye, and I don't know who he is, and we're hearing his nickname and all these things. I go up to Cristobal and to Shannon, and I'm kind of like, yo, this 10 guy's pretty good. They're like, oh, maybe we don't know if he's ready yet. They're totally lying to my face. And then that first game and every game since, he's just been tremendous. More of a big picture question. I don't necessarily want any X's and O's because I think it's pretty self-explanatory how good this guy is. But from a community standpoint, what does it mean to have a homegrown Miami guy being the best player? And best players, you go on the other side of Ruben Bain as well. What does that mean to have those two guys, but specifically with baby Jesus, that the rest of the guys can see and be like, yo, I want to stay here and do this too?
It's huge. I mean, it's a pretty interesting time because I think South Florida in general is down, like on a macro level, but you're a college football fan, you look around, the leading contender for the Heisman went to Miami, Christopher Columbus and Fernando Mendoza. Jeremiah Smith, you would say, is probably the best player in the country. And then the two you mentioned down here who stayed home, Malachi Tony and Ruben Bain, two of the brand names in college football right now. So it's a good time locally. So you want to have guys here wearing orange and green that you can point to. So you don't say, hey, you have to go to Ohio State to be Jeremiah Smith. You can stay home and be Malachi Tony. And he is such a star. It's hard to explain. He's not a big talker as far as like he's not out there courting the social media stuff. That's not really his personality. He is like blue collar worker as it gets, but he just has that natural star power. And going to the game here against NC State, walking to the stadium, I saw a group of kids. You could tell they were local kids. They probably played football. It seemed like a little football team there. And they were filming social media stuff like, oh, baby Jesus, baby Jesus. They might have been like 10 years old. My son's friends, all big Malachi Tony fans. He writes on his eye black Gabos, which is it's like an old Dade County line that Rick Ross used in one of his songs, like, I don't know, 12 years ago. Malachi might have been 6 years old when it came out, but it's the game ain't based on sympathy, basically saying like, you're not going to get a handout. You're going to have to earn all your opportunities. So it's Gabos. So if you ever see Malachi when he plays, he has Gabos written on his eye black, and that is all over. You look, there's signs everywhere. I saw DJ Khaled was posting Gabos on his Instagram for Malachi Tony. He had his family there. So there's a lot going on as far as the branding of Malachi Tony, but he himself, he is all about football, passing, which he's doing now. And I think he's going to do more of as a former quarterback, running the ball. He scored a touchdown against Louisville. And I think that's going to be something you want to keep, just to threaten defenses horizontally with how much running we do inside the tackles. And then of course, receiving and returning. He's one of the better punt returners in the country as well. And one last thing, Mac, say this to you as an offensive lineman, watch Malachi block.
Oh,
just
man.
Isolated.
Gets you excited. Yeah, he cares, man. Every aspect of his game is unbelievable.
And it doesn't stop. I mean, he's doing it against the weaker opponents. He's doing it against Notre Dame. He is so consistent in everything that he does off the field and on the field. It's teach tape. So you couldn't ask for a better representative for local football players, even guys that aren't going to play college. You just want to show them what a good football player looks like and how you carry yourself like a Miami Hurricane. Malachi Tony couldn't be better.
Did you know Ingalls only sells USDA Choice and Prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we'll even cut it to order just the way you like it. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingalls, low prices, love the savings.
D-Money with the community insight here, and that's really cool to see, and just how big he is among the youths, Mac. You know, we're always trying to break into that youth market. Let's look big picture here, D-Money, with the playoff, okay? Because Mac and I have been just really frustrated and speaking our minds about the lack of respect for the ACC as a whole with this playoff. It feels like they just don't want the ACC there. The lack of respect for the schedule, the lack of respect for Georgia Tech specifically, and of course for Miami, a team that has a win over Notre Dame. So when you look at this big picture, we can talk about Miami's chances. Obviously, we know they're going to have to win out and get some help, but they do have the win over Notre Dame. How do you feel like the committee views Miami? Like, this lack of respect, do you feel like it's been turned up a notch over the last couple of years, maybe since Florida State was left out? Like, how does Miami feel overall about how they're being treated by the committee?
Well, I don't know why you even have a week one, considering that not only did Miami,
if it's not going to count,
Notre Dame, but you guys know, based on obviously how well you cover the ACC, and you're always fighting the good fight, by the way, and Canes fans appreciate both of you, the whole team. I mean, I could have sworn that Florida State ran Alabama out the building. It wasn't even as close as the final score, but now a 2-loss Alabama team, I mean, you don't even talk about them potentially being on the bubble. That's like not even something you can talk about, because I guess their losses are quality, unless, you know, Miami loses to better ACC teams by smaller margins, one in overtime, the other one by a hair when Miami loses on a great interception against Louisville last drive where they were driving to win. But a blowout loss to Florida State, which is 2-5 in the ACC, doesn't mean anything. I don't think they even brought it up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe when they asked whoever was speaking from the committee about the ACC, he said, well, they only had the one out-of-conference win against Notre Dame, and didn't even mention the complete blowout against Alabama. So, you know, I think Miami fans right now, and at least I'm speaking for myself, but there are fans that see it the same way, we're worried about the last two games. Not that we play, right? Not that what we do matters, right? We're watching in the stands.
Locked in, baby.
But it's like, you know, we've seen so many times that Miami's faltered, particularly on the road, cold weather.
Yeah.
Right. So this has happened 20 years now. I mean, it's getting up there. So I think Miami fans want to see us get through that stretch. And I think some people, even in the committee or maybe just in the media, maybe even people who championed Miami earlier and then saw them lose to Louisville and SMU, are like, hey, let's see it, right? Let's see it. And I think maybe I'm being optimistic here, and some people tell me I am. I think if Miami gets through that stretch and plays well, and now that lingering doubt of, are we hitching our wagon to somebody who's going to let us down in the end? Mm-hmm. Once you're looking at a 10-2 resume of Miami against a 10-2 Notre Dame, and Miami's playing well, which they have been, you got to continue it offensively, especially, then I think it'll be a different conversation. Because when you break it down, the Miami Notre Dame, obviously the head-to-head, we saw that part of it. They say it has to be a certain distance between the two teams for that to matter. But are they going to sit there and say, yeah, you know, we want to consider it, but we have Utah here in between and Vanderbilt, and they would sound ridiculous if they said that. At least I think they would. Then you talk about the eye test, and again, Eric, you do a lot of national stuff as far as like with Aaron Murray, great show, and others. I mean, you're in tune with national guys. You are as well, Kelly, as far as the national media sentiment. When Miami beat Notre Dame, it was not, wow, what a fluke, man. They're trying to kick for a touchdown. There was a tip ball that got taken the other way. This guy was out. This guy was injured. It was, no, Miami just was the better team. Ruben Bain and Akeem Messidor made a sandwich out of the right tackle, the left tackle, and CJ Carr. So I don't know, when you talk about eye test, which is what you're going to start hearing now, to me, that was passing the eye test on top of the head-to-head aspect of it. So
Exactly.
we'll see how it goes.
And I think the eye test of recently, winning by 30 points against Syracuse, winning by 30 points against NC State. And again, I'm with you, and you have to go do it. And it is going to be in adverse environments because of weather and regional location, going up north to, Virginia Tech, which will be a little bit hostile. They'll be excited to see Miami come to town. And luckily that's a noon game. And, going to Pittsburgh to finish the year here, who maybe by the time you get to them is beaten down pretty well, but still the weather will impact that. So
And Mac, remember the common opponent aspect of Pitt too. Like you're going to have to go up there and beat Pitt as handily or more handily than Notre Dame did.
Right. Well, of course. And like we said, you beat Notre Dame. So the factor of all that, I think the eye test, thing is, okay, these guys are blowing everybody out. They've gotten better. They have improved. We severely, criminally underrated them in that first poll, and we're slowly but surely trying to get them back into it. I'm with you. And I've got, listen, ESPN research, my guy Drew, he is hammering the numbers, and he's going to get something to me to where we can go on this big spiel. But everything you said, you got to handle business. You got to handle business. But we're going to lay the groundwork, and that opportunity will certainly be there. And I think when you look at this team, just from an ACC, like, let me step back and put on my, ACC outfit here. Miami's our best hope in the playoff, I think. They're the biggest team. They're the baddest team. They're the most complete team. I love Georgia Tech. Love them so much. Their defense is horrendous. It's Miami from a year ago. I love Virginia. You line Virginia up against Ohio State. What's that going to look like? I don't have those questions if Miami lines up in that game. I don't have those doubts because of the athletes, because of the size, because of the personnel, that they have, and a quarterback that has been there at the highest level and won a lot of games, with Georgia and now with you guys. So it is fascinating, how this is going to end up. What will it all look like? And, will Miami at the end of the day, if they take care of business, will they be able to get in there? And I think it's a yes. I think it's, again, I said this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it's been, when they left Florida State out. I mean, it is hurting the integrity of the sport for you to make those decisions when we settled it on the field. If we get to that, which maybe we won't, who knows? But to me, D-Money, that's where we've got to be real about this thing.
No doubt about it. And I always say this and people think I'm weird. It's just like the college football playoff show. It's a show about making a show. So like, do you ever watch the Muppets, Kelly, when you were a kid? It's like they would try to make the Muppet Show.
Sure.
Did you watch?
Sure. Yeah.
They tried to make the Muppet Show, and the show was them making the show. So they had a show about making a show.
Exactly.
The WWE wrestling, they're trying to have a show and then hijinks ensues. So it's a show about making a show. This show is just a show about making a show, which is the actual games, right? And then we watch it, and with people, they sell ads on it. It's crazy how much coverage all this gets. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make a show. And I think, obviously, we know Miami's deserving for the reasons that we've all talked about. If they are able to take care of business these last two, their resume is going to be what it is. Quality wins compared to Notre Dame's quality wins. We can go through the whole thing. But just in terms of like putting on a tournament, you don't want Ruben Bain and Malachi Tony in that tournament. Carson Beck, the most talked about player, seems like in college football sometimes. You don't want him in that tournament. You don't want to see some of these matchups, Miami against Georgia, Miami, Ohio State, however,
the
rematch against Notre Dame.
The aura that the brand brings. I mean, no question. What are we
and it's going to be a more, with all respect to SMU just beat Miami. So I'm not trying to diminish SMU by any stretch. But, an SMU against a Penn State game where there were some physical disparities, you're not going to get those same physical disparities with Miami in this tournament. So if you're putting together the best tournament, which you can defend rationally based on their resume and what they actually did on the field in head-to-head matchups and beyond,
correct.
Why wouldn't you want Miami in there? I think it'd be obviously great for the ACC, but I think it'd be better for the college football playoff.
And by the way, they left Florida State out a couple years ago because they wanted the best tournament, right? Because of injuries and all that situation.
Exactly.
So they've, done that before. When we talk about these last two games, Virginia Tech and Pitt, and again, I think the Pitt game is huge because that is a common opponent with Notre Dame, and they'll probably dissect that if the head-to-head doesn't matter enough for them. What do you want to see specifically from Miami in these last two games on the field?
Certainly, offensively, you have to stay at the level or beyond what you've been the last couple games, because that's been the question. The committee specifically mentioned the offense when they talked about Miami early on in their rankings. So they're looking at that, and at least you can use their words against them if the offense continues to score 40 plus, which, by the way, we're 22nd, whereas if I'm playing, Miami Hurricanes are 22nd in the nation in scoring offense per just FBS versus FBS opponents. So the offense, as much as it's been the stumbling block for the Miami Hurricanes, and as much of a drop off as it is from last year where it was number one with a bullet and everything, it's still a pretty good offense. Ohio State's 19th nationally in scoring offense, and then the number one team. So we're not talking about, some sort of pop gun offense that's being carried by a defense, although the defense itself held Jeremiah Love and Price and all those monsters to like 70 yards rushing and just completely destroyed an NC State running back, which you guys know they have very good backs over there with Smothers and Scott, and they did nothing.
Which are they talking about Oklahoma that way? Oklahoma's offense is horrific. I mean, they're terrible. They're terrible. That's the interesting thing too. Sorry for this little tangent.
Please.
It's like other things that apply to us as a league and Miami as a team don't apply to anybody else. Like concerns that you have and things that you say, and even like the dumbass comment about Georgia Tech got dominated on both sides of the and when he said that, I was looking at the tweet mindlessly like, what? What do you mean? Did you watch this? And so that's always my thing, D-Money, is you have these people who can be manipulated. Like it's not, it's all a facade, man. It ticks me off. And now that guy's gone and maybe he's just a mouthpiece anyway. I'm sure that's the collective thought. Somebody said that. Like he's an AD. He's a sitting AD. He's not a football coach. He's not whatever. So someone in that room said that to him and he thought that was the best way to regurgitate that to the world. And so to me, it's just like, what are we doing? What are we truly watching? Sorry to interrupt.
No, you thank you. And I think people are still stuck. We saw the SEC for 20 years where unless it was a year with FSU where they had really great defensive lines, or obviously your alma mater, when they had their great defensive lines, it seemed like there was a concentration of talent in 3 or 4 SEC teams, particularly on the defensive line, that made it kind of unfair. And you had to grade everything else on a curve. You said, this is different. We could talk about all this, but this is different. Now you look at, first of all, Miami, I would say defensive end wise is the best team in the country. If it's not them, it's Texas Tech, which plays in the Big 12. Clemson, I know it's not in the playoff conversation, I'm just talking about the ACC, has 2 of the higher drafted prospects on the defensive line. I couldn't tell you who the best prospect is on Georgia's defensive line currently. So I think some of the ways in which the SEC was just a cut above everybody else, where you'd have these blowout matchups and you'd say, it's cute. These other teams are cute, but it's different level when you play these SEC teams. That doesn't apply in the portal era. The best pass rusher on Georgia went to Missouri, and they never replaced him. So it's a lot more spread out talent-wise, and I think teams, the people really observing this, need to shake off some of those memories of Alabama and Georgia, maybe LSU when they're having a good year, just being so far ahead of everybody, and realize that those days are gone, and Alabama can go down to Tallahassee and get completely blown out by a team that's 2-5 in the ACC. They may forget that, but that did in fact take place.
And I think the interesting thing too of the league is specifically looking at the SEC is this just big, nasty monster. I mean, you literally have a top half and a dead bottom half. That like there is no in between. There's no competitiveness like there is in the ACC. I mean, I'm looking at the standings right now. No wins, 1 win, 1 win, 1 win, 2 win, 2 win, 4 to 7. Like there's nothing in between. It's you've got people that are getting mowed over, and then you've got the elites that are all those teams I said with 4 wins are all ranked. Why aren't our teams with 4 wins ranked? I mean, we got teams with 7 and 8 wins not ranked. It's just so silly to me at the end of the day. I could talk about this, KG, for hours.
Well, let me add one more thing. And then
Please.
I know we got to let D-Money get back to his amazing work covering the Canes. I think one of the most under talked about things in the entire country that people are not talking enough about, that, and honestly kind of every year, but let's be honest, just take a quick look at Ohio State's schedule. Like, just look at it.
Correct.
Spend some time with that schedule. They will have ended up playing 3 ranked teams, and Michigan's the 3rd. Illinois, Texas, the Big Ten. And I've been beating this drum since I was doing local radio. The Big Ten. And the only reason the Big Ten looks better these days is because they added Oregon.
Correct.
Oregon is helping big time, and of course
USC
Southern
's not
Cal.
terrible.
Outside of those two, my
Mhm.
goodness, just take a quick look at Ohio State's schedule and then get back to me on that.
Yeah.
And
That's all I
Oregon,
gotta
I mean,
say.
we're assuming Oregon's going to kind of walk in here, even if they lose. I mean, Oregon's not played anybody really.
Right.
So I couldn't agree more, Kelly. It's frustrating, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think this Miami team has a chance if they get into the playoff to maybe right some wrongs with the ACC. Not every
Exactly.
ACC team's had the ability to do that just from a trench standpoint, really.
Right. Right.
Obviously, Clemson fought that good fight and proved a lot for the ACC. So, you know, obviously, as someone who covers Miami and as a Cam Ward jersey behind me, I want Miami to get in for Miami. But I do
Right.
think if Miami gets in, they will be able to show the
Correct.
country the type of football being played in the ACC because I know you guys know because you were at those games, covering those games. Miami's played SEC teams the last 2 years with Florida, and that was the easiest game on Miami's schedule.
Exactly. Owned them.
Aside from the FCS game,
Who
both
beat
years.
Texas, by the way, who just
And
almost
push Georgia.
pushed Georgia, took Ole Miss to the wire. They ran away with it late. And, I think kind of in closing here, last thing, D-Money, thank you for your time. Just the fact that you're looking at that, and in years past when I've been arguing for X team that they should be in the playoff, X ACC team, and they quickly want to, well, do you think they could beat Georgia? Do you think they could beat blah, blah? The answer for Miami is yes, I do. I do think that. I don't have to think twice about that at all. So that's my thing. And we'll see. Again, Miami, take care of business so I can yell and scream all weekend. I would love that. I would love to do that.